Hey, history lovers, stop what you're doing, because tonight we're diving headfirst into the raw, unfiltered pulse of the past, where every day was a fight, every dream a rebellion, and every story a spark that still burns bright. Welcome to our journey through time, where the air smells of medieval mud, Russian ambition, Maya mystery, and the vibrant pain of a Mexican artist's soul. I'm your guide, and I'm thrilled you're here, ready to walk these ancient paths with me. We're not flipping through a dusty textbook or watching a polished Hollywood epic. No, this is history laid bare, gritty, human, and alive with the kind of courage that makes your heart race. So, grab a cozy spot, maybe a warm drink, and let's step into a world where survival was a triumph. Power was seized with cunning, and art became a weapon against despair. Picture yourself waking up in a medieval hut, fleas biting, the air thick with the stench of yesterday's mistakes. Or imagine a teenage girl, alone in a foreign court, plotting to become an empress. Feel the weight of a Maya queen's tomb, sealed in crimson silence, or the brushstrokes of a woman painting her broken body into immortality. Tonight, we're weaving together 4 stories that span centuries and continents, the brutal daily grind of medieval Europe, the audacious rise of Catherine the Great, the enigmatic Red Queen of Palenque, and the defiant spirit of Frida Kahlo. Each one's a testament to the stubborn, beautiful resilience of the human spirit, fighting against odds that would crush most of us. Before we dive in, let's make this a moment we share. Hit that like button if you're ready to feel history come alive. Subscribe if you're hooked on these deep dives into the past. And drop a comment to tell me where you're tuning in from. Maybe a bustling city like Tokyo or a quiet town under starlit skies. What time is it where you are? I'm curious to know who's out there, gathered around this digital campfire. Let's dim the lights, let the world fade away, and step into these stories together. Trust me, by the end, you'll see the past not as a distant echo, but as a living, breathing force that still shapes who we are. Ready? Let's go. Part 1. Life in the medieval world. All right, history lovers, let's dive into the gritty, grimy heart of the Middle Ages. Close your eyes for a second and imagine this. It's the year 1325, and you've just woken up in a medieval village. The world around you is raw, unforgiving, and smells like a mix of damp straw, sweat, and something you really hope isn't what you think it is. This isn't the romantic tale of knights and castles Hollywood loves to spin. No, this is the real Middle Ages, where survival was a daily battle, and every sunrise felt like a small victory. You ready to walk through a day in this world? Let's go. But I warn you, it's not pretty, and you might not last until supper. Your eyes flutter open, and the first thing you notice is the hitch. Your bed, if you can call it that, is a lumpy sack of straw stuffed with bugs, tucked in a one-room hut that's more barn than home. Fleas are having a party on your skin, and the hay beneath you smells like it was scraped off a stable floor 3 months ago. No memory foam, no fluffy pillows, just a wool blanket so heavy with grime it could probably walk itself to the river. You're 22 years old, which, let's be honest, makes you practically ancient in medieval terms. Your spine creaks like an old wooden gate. Your knees grind like a sack of pebbles, and the air is so cold it bites your bones. Outside, the church bell clangs loud, relentless, like an alarm clock with no snooze button. It's the Middle Ages way of saying, get up, or you're already behind. Your hut's got no windows, just wooden walls with gaps big enough to let in rain, wind, and the neighbor's chicken. You're not alone in this cramped space. Your whole family's here: parents, siblings, maybe a random cousin who showed up last harvest and never left. Oh, and don't forget the livestock. A couple of goats, a pig if you're lucky, and an army of rats and insects all share this open concept living space. Privacy. Yeah, that's a fairy tale nobody's heard of yet. The air's a fragrant cocktail of stale ale, human sweat, goat musk, and a whiff of mold you're trying really hard to ignore. Scented candles, not invented. If they were, they'd just melt into the dirt floor. You stretch, wincing, and brace yourself for the day. This is your morning, and it's about to get a whole lot worse. First up, nature's calling, and it's not whispering politely, it's screaming. Here's where you start missing indoor plumbing. There's no toilet, no seat, no toilet paper, not even a grumpy plunger in the corner. If you're a peasant, your bathroom's a wooden bucket behind the house, already overflowing because Uncle Wolfstan had a rough night with some bad turnips. The smell, it's biblical, like something that could summon a plague all on its own. You hold your breath, do what you gotta do, and then brace yourself. You toss it into the street. Yeah, the street. You're supposed to yell Gardes low old French for watch out below. But let's be real, nobody moves fast enough. Medieval streets are open sewers, a flowing river of human waste, animal droppings, and mystery liquids you don't want to investigate. One wrong step, and you're ankle deep in regret. If you're in a town with public latrines, you're not exactly living the dream. Picture sitting shoulder to shoulder with strangers in a drafty outhouse, making awkward small talk while trying not to breathe too deeply. Ventilation's a myth, and the smell's a punishment. Toilet paper. Forget it. You're wiping with straw, leaves, moss, or a scrap of wool if you're feeling fancy. Sometimes it's just your hand and a quick prayer for forgiveness. Handshakes. Not a thing yet, and now you know why. If you're in a castle, you might have a garderobe, a fancy hole in the wall that drops straight into the moat. Sounds better, right? Until you hear about enemies climbing up those waste chutes to attack. Yup, invaders sneaking in through the toilet. Medieval life doesn't just challenge you, it humiliates you in ways you never imagined. You've survived the bathroom gauntlet, so let's reward you with breakfast. Except, sorry. This is the Middle Ages, nothing's rewarding here. You squat by a smoky fire, staring into a wooden bowl of pottage, a thick, gloopy stew that looks like it was scraped off a dungeon floor. It's made of whatever you could find grains. Some sad root vegetables, maybe a bean or two if the harvest was kind. This pot's been simmering for days, maybe weeks, with new scraps just tossed on top of the old ones. It's less a recipe, more a science experiment gone wrong. On the side, you've got a hunk of bread so hard it could double as a weapon. It's rye or barley, bulked up with sawdust, acorns, or whatever else was lying around, because wheat's a lord's luxury, not yours. You don't slice this bread, you wrestle it. Thirsty. No orange juice, no coffee. Definitely no oat milk latte. You're drinking weak ale, low alcohol, high survival. Why? Because the water's a death trap, crawling with parasites and filth from upstream chamber pots. Kids drink it too. because nobody's got time for dysentery, meat or cheese. Only on Sundays or saints' feast days, and only if your lord's feeling generous. Most peasants see meat a few times a year, tops. Fresh fruit, only in season, and it's probably half rotten or fermenting into wine. Spices, a pinch of pepper costs more than your monthly wages, and salt's locked away like gold. So, you choke down your gritty bread, sip your medieval beer, and try not to think about the rat that probably sampled your pottage last night. This isn't breakfast, it's a grim ritual to keep you alive for another day of suffering. Now, you're fed. Barely. And it's time to get dressed. Spoiler, it's not going to make you feel better. Your wardrobe's one outfit, a rough wool tunic or linen shift you've worn every day for months, maybe years. It's stained, stiff with sweat, and smells like a compost pile left to fester in a pigsty. Underwear optional. If you're lucky, you've got a linen undertunic. But most folks go commando under scratchy wool layers, stitched together by someone who clearly never met a straight seam. Washing clothes is a nightmare. You'd need to haul water from a river, heat it over a fire, scrub with ashes or lye, and pray for sun to dry its sun that shows up maybe 3 days a year. Shoes, if you've got them, they're leather scraps, barely held together, offering as much support as a soggy leaf. Most peasants go barefoot, trudging through mud, dung, and sharp rocks that feel like medieval landmines. Your skin's a battlefield. Fleas, lice, and bedbugs live rent-free on your body. Everyone's got them nobles, monks, kids, all walking insect farms. You're scratching your armpit with a wooden spoon while chatting with the priest, and nobody blinks. A rash, that's your new companion for the next 6 months. No soap, no creams, no dermatologist, just raw, itchy misery. If you're lucky, it's not scabies. If it's scabies, well, good luck. You're dressed now, wrapped in discomfort, and it's time to face the day. But first, let's talk about your smile, or lack of it. You want to flash a grin, but that's a dangerous game in the Middle Ages. Toothbrushes, toothpaste, mouthwash. Not a thing. Oral hygiene's about as popular as bathing, which is to say, barely. Some folks chew on twigs or rinse with wine or vinegar, but most leave their teeth to fend for themselves, and they're losing. By your mid-20s, your mouth looks like a haunted crypt. Cavities are everywhere. Gums swollen. Teeth stained with decay. Sugar's rare, mostly for rich folks who rot their teeth faster. But your diet of gritty bread and fermented pottage does the job slowly. Toothaches are your constant companion. The kind of pain that makes you consider yanking the tooth out yourself with pliers, and that's not a joke. That's the treatment. Dentists don't exist, but barber surgeons do. Yep. The same guy cutting your hair pulls your teeth with an iron hook. No anesthesia, by flickering candlelight. Infected tooth. Hope you like fevers, because without antibiotics, it can turn into sepsis and send you to an early grave. A toothache could literally be your funeral. Bad breath, everyone's got it. Kissing's a gamble. And if you're single, nobody's judging you by your smile, they're looking at your land or livestock. Your mouth's a war zone, and it's losing fast, dressed, itchy, and toothless. You head outside to work. If you're a peasant, and let's face it, 90% of you or your job is simple. Don't die while slaving for someone else's comfort. You're up at dawn, wielding a wooden hoe or rusty sickle, plowing fields, sowing seeds, or hauling water until your spine curves like a question mark. No weekends, no coffee breaks, no promotions. You work sunrise to sunset. 6 days a week, Sundays for church, unless the harvest's late or raiders are coming. Women, you're not just in the fields, you're cooking, cleaning, spinning wool, raising kids, and dodging your husband's lice. Kids start working at 5, swinging tiny rakes and praying they don't catch the flu. If you're not a farmer, maybe you're a blacksmith or tanner, choking on smoke or chemical fumes in a shed with no air. Pay, you get to eat, maybe. Perks, occasional bleeding or broken bones. Get a fever, drink warm ale and keep going. Stop working, and you don't eat. Stop eating, and you're replaced permanently. Your job's not a career, it's a slow-motion endurance test. And the finish line's a shallow grave. Let's talk weather, because it's not just seasons. It's punishment. Winter's brutal. Your hut's got no insulation. Just wooden walls with gaps you could toss a cat through. Windows are cloth, not glass. The fire's nice in theory, but firewood's expensive, and gathering it from the Lord's forest could get you executed. Yes, you could die for picking up a stick. You huddle in your damp tunic, nose frozen, fingers stiff, frostbite just called bad luck. Summer's no better. Your hut's a clay oven, no fans, no breeze, no deodorant. You sweat through your clothes, but stripping's scandalous and invites sunburn or mosquito bites. Flies swarm your unwashed body, drawn to the goat stew fermenting in the corner. Heat stroke. That's just taking a bad turn. You're either freezing or roasting. But the work never stops. Thirsty. Water's not your friend, it's trying to kill you. Streams look clear, but upstream. Someone's dumping waste or a dead pig's rotting. Parasites and bacteria wait in every sip. So you drink weak ale, kids too. Bathing risky. People thought it opened your pores to disease. So most stayed caked in filth, believing it protected them. Communal bathhouses existed, but they were scandal central, often shut down by the church. Want to bathe hall water, heat it, fill a leaky tub, and pray nobody uses it first. Rainwater's collected in barrels where birds poop and insects breed. Hydration's a gamble, and cleanliness is a luxury you can't afford. Sick medicine's more torture than cure. Everything's blamed on unbalanced humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile. Fever, bloodletting, barber surgeons or leeches drain you dizzy. Sad laxatives or prayers. Broken bone. No anesthesia, just dirty knives and pain. Germs, not discovered yet. Disease comes from bad air or God's wrath. Stomachache must be your sins. Surgery's a last resort, done with tools unwashed since the Crusades. Survive God's mercy. Die, the priest's ready with last rites. Medicine's not healing, it's surviving the cure. Food's another hazard. No fridges. No freezers, just salt, smoke, or hope. Meat's rare, often fly-covered or shared with rats. Bread's the staple, but bad harvests mean it's stretched with bark or clay. Rye can carry ergot, a fungus causing hallucinations or death like LSD with a side of tetanus. Vegetables, mostly turnips, boiled into oblivion. Fruit rots fast. Dairy's a bacterial gamble, and spices are for kings. Poach a rabbit. You could be hanged. Every bite's a risk. Every meal a test. Religion's not a choice. It's life. Church bells dictate your day morning, noon, night. Miss Mass sin. Eat meat on Friday. Sin. Think impure thoughts. Double sin. Hell's real, painted in vivid detail fire. Demons, screams. The Bible's in Latin, so you rely on priests who say your bad crops are God's punishment. Tithes take 1/10 of everything wheat. Eggs? Hope? Can't pay, you're doomed. Holy days mean fasting, not fun. Question the church. Heretics burn, witches drown. You pray, you bow. You hope for paradise after this dirt-covered life. Women face it all, plus worse. Marry at 12, pregnant by 14, no say in it. Childbirth's a death lottery. No doctors, no sterile tools. Survive 10 pregnancies, maybe. You're cooking, cleaning, working fields, raising kids, all while dodging witchcraft accusations for knowing herbs or speaking up. Unmarried, suspicious. Widowed, vulnerable. The church limits you. Society demands you smile through it. You're not just surviving. You're expected to make it look holy. Violence is everywhere. Steal bread, lose a hand. Gossip, wear a gagging mask. Serious crime, trial by ordeal, boil your hand or drown to prove innocence. Executions are public, with cheering crowds. Domestic violence, normal. Street fights, routine. Wars, constant feuds. Crusades or a Lord's bad day. Life's fragile. Justice, a show. And your neighbor might kill you over a pig. Death comes fast. If you're 40, you're a miracle. Half the kids die before 5 disease. Hunger, cold. Women die in childbirth. Men in accidents or fights. Plague empties towns. Famine starves villages. Bad grain sends you screaming to your grave. Funerals are quick, a hole, a prayer, no coffin. You don't retire, you just stop. Yet, through this brutal haze, people found light. They sang, laughed, loved, told stories by firelight. A mother hummed despite fleas. A farmer shared ale after a long day. Humans are stubborn, they carved joy from misery. So, tonight, as you slip into your clean bed with plumbing and medicine, whisper thanks to those who endured this relentless world. Their fight, their laughter, their stubborn spark carried us here. Now, hold that thought, we're heading to Russia next, where a girl named Sophie rewrote history with a crown and a coup. Part 2, Catherine the Great, from Sophie to Empress. All right, history lovers, we've just trudged through the muddy, flea-bitten streets of medieval Europe, where survival was a daily gamble. Now, let's trade that gritty world for the glittering, treacherous halls of 18th century Russia, where a young girl named Sophie, armed with nothing but her wits and a burning ambition, clawed her way to become Catherine the Great, Empress of one of the world's mightiest empires. This isn't a fairy tale of crowns and ball gowns. It's a story of cunning, betrayal, and a woman who refused to be a pawn in anyone's game. So, settle in. Picture yourself in a frosty palace with whispers of intrigue in every corner. And let's follow Sophie's journey from an obscure German duchy to the throne of Russia. Trust me, this is a ride you won't forget. Imagine you're a 14-year-old girl in 1744, standing on the icy streets of St. Petersburg, your breath clouding in the freezing air. You're Sophie Federica Augusta von Anhalt-Zerbst, born in 1729, in a minor German duchy so small it barely registers on a map. Your family's noble, but not exactly rolling in gold. Your dad's a Prussian officer. Your mom's a social climber with dreams bigger than her purse. You're not destined for greatness, not yet. But inside you, there's a spark, razor-sharp intelligence, a charm that can disarm anyone, and a quiet, relentless hunger for something more. You've read books that set your mind on fire. You speak languages like they're second nature, and you've learned to watch a room, to listen, to know when to smile and when to strike. That's Sophie, and she's about to step into a world that could eat her alive. You've been summoned to Russia by Empress Elizabeth Petrovna, a ruler as fierce as she is unpredictable. Why she's picked you to marry her nephew and heir, Grand Duke Peter, a German-born prince who's supposed to carry Russia's future. Sounds glamorous. Right. Not so fast. You arrive in St. Petersburg, shivering in thin German dresses, your mom pushing you forward like a chess piece. The Russian court is a dazzling maze of gold, fur, and danger. Everyone's watching you, nobles, spies, servants, all waiting for you to slip up. You're a foreigner, a Lutheran in an Orthodox land, and you're barely a teenager. One wrong move, and you're done. But you're not here to be a decoration. You're here to play a game most don't even realize you've entered. First, you shed your old self. You convert to Orthodoxy, taking the name Ekaterina Alexeyevna Catherine. It's not just a name change. It's a vow to become Russian, to weave yourself into this empire's soul. You learn the language, memorize prayers, study Russia's history until your eyes ache. The ceremony's public, your fur-trimmed coat heavy, but your smile is steady. You're burning the bridge behind you, stepping into a world with no way back. Nobody watching that quiet girl could guess what's coming: betrayal, revolution, an empire reshaped by her hands. But from the moment you set foot in Russia, you're not just Sophie anymore. You're planning to be a queen. Now, let's talk about your new husband, Peter. If you're expecting a dashing prince, brace for disappointment. Peter's awkward, immature, and about as charming as a wet sock. He's obsessed with toy soldiers, playing war games in his room while you're trying to navigate a court that's one step from a dagger in the dark. He idolizes Frederick the Great of Prussia, Russia's enemy, and openly scorns the country he's supposed to rule. Worse, he's not interested in you, not as a wife, not as a partner. Some say he didn't even consummate the marriage for years. You're trapped in a loveless, political cage, married to a man who'd rather march his wooden army than lead a real one. But you don't sulk. You strategize. The Russian court's a viper's nest. Empress Elizabeth rules with absolute power. But her health's shaky, and everyone's jockeying for position. Your every move is watched. Your letters read. Your friendships tracked. Your maids reporting back. You can't trust Peter. Your mom's whispering foreign agendas, and even your allies might turn on you. It's suffocating, but you're no fool. You play the part of the dutiful wife, all grace and humility, while quietly building a network. You charm military officers with your wit, win scholars with your intellect, and earn nobles' respect with your dignity. While Peter throws tantrums and insults Russian traditions, you're learning, watching, waiting. Behind closed doors, you're reading Voltaire, Montesquieu, devouring Enlightenment ideas about reason, justice, and power. You're not just a consort, you're a visionary, biding your time. Years pass, and you're still in limbo, a powerless wife to a man unfit to rule. But in 1762, everything changes. Elizabeth dies, and Peter becomes Tsar Peter III. You'd think this is his moment, but he's a disaster from day one. He alienates the church, insults the army, and fawns over Prussia, reversing Russia's hard-won victories. He talks openly about divorcing you for his mistress, humiliating you in front of the court. The nobility's fed up, the army's grumbling, and even peasants see him as a foreign puppet. You watch it all unfold, your heart racing, your mind sharp. This is your chance, the crack in the empire you've been waiting for. With your lover, Gregory Orlov, a dashing officer, and his powerful brothers, you launch a plan so bold it could end in a crown or a noose. In July 1762, while Peter's off at his summer palace, you ride through St. Petersburg, dressed in military regalia, rallying the imperial guard to your side. The city erupts in your favor. You're proclaimed Empress Catherine II, not by birth, not by marriage, but by sheer will. Peter, caught off guard, surrenders within days. Soon after, he's dead officially from hemorrhoidal colic, but let's be real, it's murder, whispered in shadows. At 33, you're Empress, a foreign-born woman with no legitimate claim, sitting on one of Europe's most powerful thrones. The world's watching, waiting for you to fail. But you're just getting started. You don't want to just rule Russia. You want to transform it. You're inspired by the Enlightenment, by thinkers like Voltaire, who you write to for years, flattering him while defending your iron grip. You buy Diderot's library to keep him afloat, invite scholars to your court, and dream of a Russia that's modern, educated, strong. In 1767, you launch the Legislative Commission, a radical attempt to rewrite Russia's laws. Your nakaz, or instruction, is a manifesto disguised as policy, calling for equality before the law, an end to torture, and a ruler's duty to serve the people. For 18th century Russia, it's revolutionary. You abolish some tortures, build schools, expand secular education, even introduce smallpox vaccination, testing it on yourself to prove it's safe. That's not just leadership, that's courage. But Russia's no enlightenment salon. It's a sprawling, feudal giant, with nobles who love their serfs firmly underfoot. You push reform, but you're careful. You need the nobility's loyalty, so you reaffirm their control over serfs, tying your dreams to the reality of power. It's a tightrope philosopher queen in public, pragmatic empress in private. You're not just modernizing Russia, you're shaping it to survive, balancing ideals with the gritty politics of Moscow. Your ambition doesn't stop at Russia's borders. You want an empire that makes Europe tremble. You wage wars against the Ottoman Empire in the 1760s and 1770s, not just for land, but for influence. Under generals like Alexander Suvorov and Gregory Potemkin, you seize Crimea, the Black Sea coast, and warm water ports Russia's craved for centuries. These aren't just victories, they're statements. Russia's no longer Europe's backward cousin. It's a force. You turn west too, carving up Poland with Austria and Prussia. By 1795, Poland's gone, its lands split, and Russia's bigger than ever. You build cities, expand trade, invite German settlers to farm your new lands. Critics call you imperialistic. You call it destiny. A great ruler, you believe, is measured by borders, not just ideas. Now, let's get personal, because your love life's as legendary as your conquests. You take lovers young, handsome, often powerful like Gregory Potemkin, who's more than a fling. He's your partner, maybe even your secret husband, shaping wars and policies by your side. You don't hide your affairs. You reward loyalty with titles, estates, pensions. Europe's scandalized, whispering about your appetite. But you don't care. Love's a strategy, a way to bind capable men to your cause. You live unapologetically, defying a world that expects women to be virgins or victims. Gossip paints you as insatiable, even spreading lies about a horse pure slander to smear you. But you're too busy ruling to blush. In 1773, your reign faces its darkest test, the Pugachev Rebellion. A Cossack named Yemelyan Pugachev claims he's Peter III, your dead husband, rallying serfs and Cossacks with promises of freedom and land. Villages burn, nobles die, and for a moment, your empire shakes. This isn't a foreign war, it's your own people rising against you. You don't flinch. You send armies to crush it. And by 1774, Pugachev's captured, paraded in a cage, then beheaded in Moscow. The rebellion's over, but it scars you. Your dreams of freeing serfs fade. You lean harder on nobles, tightening control. Stability trumps philosophy now. Pugachev's head is a warning, cross you, and you'll fall. By the time you die in 1796, you've ruled for 34 years, longer than any Russian woman. You've added 200,000 square miles to Russia, founded the Hermitage Museum, built schools, and made Russia a cultural and military titan. You're no saint serfdom deepened under you, but you're effective. You took a throne through a coup, ruled a hostile empire, and left it stronger. You were called usurper, tyrant, reformer, seductress, but above all, you were great. Not because you were flawless, but because you seized power and wielded it like no one else. You didn't just wear the crown, you forged it, proving a woman could rule with fire and steel. So, what's next? History lovers, we're leaving Russia's icy palaces for a jungle in Mexico, where a queen lies in crimson silence, her story whispering through stone. Stay with me. This one's a mystery that'll grip your soul. Part 3. The Red Queen of Palenque, a Maya mystery. Hey, history lovers, we've just left the icy intrigue of Catherine the Great's Russia, where ambition and cunning carved an empire. Now, let's plunge into the steamy jungles of southern Mexico, where ancient stones guard a secret that's been silent for over 300 years. We're heading to Palenque, a Maya city wrapped in mist and mystery, to meet a woman known only as the Red Queen. Her tomb, drenched in crimson, holds no name, no title, just an enigma that whispers of power, ritual, and a life that still grips us across centuries. So, grab a seat. Imagine the hum of cicadas and the scent of damp earth, and let's unravel this Maya mystery together. This one's going to pull you in deep. Picture this, it's 1994, and a team of archaeologists is picking their way through the ruins of Palenque, a city where temples rise like jagged teeth from the jungle. They're in Temple Defiant, a squat pyramid overshadowed by the grandeur of the Temple of the Inscriptions nearby. Nobody expects much, just another looted chamber, maybe some broken pottery. But then, they find a hidden passage, sealed tight, hearts pounding. They break through, and there it is, a stone sarcophagus, untouched since the 7th century, the air's heavy, sacred. They lift the lid, and what they see stops them cold. A skeleton lies inside, every bone coated in a shimmering red powder cinnabar, a sacred toxic mineral, jade beads, a mosaic mask, and delicate offerings surround her. This isn't just a burial, it's a queen. A woman so revered her tomb was a gateway to the gods. They call her the Red Queen, and her story is one of the Maya world's greatest puzzles. Let's step back to the 600s, when Palenque was a jewel of the Maya, its white limestone palaces gleaming under a tropical sky. The Maya weren't just farmers or warriors, they were astronomers, mathematicians, poets of stone and starlight. Their cities were cosmic maps, their rituals a dance between life, death, and the divine. Palenque's greatest king, Kinich Janab Pakal, ruled from 615 to 683, turning the city into a powerhouse. His tomb, found in 1952 in the Temple of the Inscriptions, is a masterpiece, a carved sarcophagus showing him ascending to the heavens, surrounded by jade and offerings. But the Red Queen, buried just steps away, might be his equal in reverence, maybe even his partner. Her tomb's no accident, it's a statement, a mirror to Pakal's own. Why the red cinnabar, or mercury sulfide, wasn't just pretty, it was sacred. To the Maya, it was blood, life, rebirth. They ground it into powder, painting it on the dead to transform them for Xibalba, the underworld, a place of trials and gods. But cinnabar's dangerous, inhale it. Touch it too long, and it poisons you. The Red Queen's burial was a labor of love and risk, her attendants braving death to coat her in this scarlet blessing. Her bones, her sarcophagus, even the air around her glowed red, a sign she wasn't just resting, she was journeying, becoming divine. This wasn't a goodbye, it was a launch into eternity. Look closer at her tomb, and you see the care, a jade mask, shattered but painstakingly pieced back together. Covered her face not to hide her, but to preserve her soul. Jade was life to the Maya, the green of maize, the breath of gods. Her mask wasn't jewelry, it was power. Around her neck, jade beads and pendants, each carved with care. Bone needles, obsidian blades, and ceramic figures lay at her side, tools for her journey. Offerings to gods like the maize god or the moon goddess. The sarcophagus itself was plain, no carvings, but its modesty hides its meaning. Aligned east-west, it follows the sun's path, a cosmic road from dawn to dusk. The chamber's walls, sealed tight, made it a portal, not a grave. Whoever she was. The Red Queen wasn't meant to stay silent. She was meant to ascend. So, who was she? That's the question that keeps archaeologists up at night. The leading theory points to Zakbu Ajah, Pakal's wife, her tomb's proximity to his, the matching cinnabar. The jade, it all suggests a cosmic pairing. Sun and moon, king and queen. Zakbu Ajah, also called Lady Yol Iknal, was no ordinary consort. Glyphs say she bore Pakal's sons, cementing his dynasty. She might have ruled as regent or co-ruler, a partner in Palenque's golden age. DNA tests on the Red Queen's bones didn't link her directly to Pakal, but marriage doesn't need blood. And the Maya didn't always bury couples together. Her tomb's reverence screams importance, and Zakbu Ajah fits the bill. But there's another contender, Sakkuk, Pakal's mother. She was a queen in her own right, ruling Palenque before Pakal came of age, fierce and powerful. She stabilized the city after invasions. Her burial might demand the same honor as her sons, a mother's legacy etched in red. Some even suggest the Red Queen could be a priestess or another noblewoman, a figure whose name was erased by time or ritual. The Maya sometimes left tombs unnamed, letting the offerings speak. No glyphs in her chamber give us a clue, maybe by design. Her power wasn't in a title, it was in her role, her spirit, her journey. Let's talk about Maya women, because they weren't just shadows behind kings. Queens like Zakbu Ajah and Sakkuk weren't decorative, they were diplomats, priestesses, power brokers. Glyphs show women wielding scepters, leading rituals, even governing cities. Lady Six Sky of Naranjo waged wars. Lady Cable of El Peruaca was a supreme warlord. Women in Palenque held titles like Holy Snake Lord, tying them to gods. The Red Queen, whoever she was, wasn't buried for beauty or marriage. She was buried for influence. her jade, her cinnabar. Her cosmic tomb say she shaped Palenque's story, whether as wife, mother, or something else entirely. The tomb's architecture tells us more. Temple Frida isn't Palenque's grandest, but it's strategic, nestled beside Pakal's pyramid. The Red Queen's chamber was hidden, sealed with stone, meant to stay secret. Its substructure, a warren of corridors, mimics the underworld's twists. The Maya saw death as a cycle, not an end. Burials were rebirths, preparing the dead to join ancestors or gods. Her sarcophagus, placed deep in the temple, was a seed planted in the earth, ready to sprout in the cosmos. The lack of carvings might mean haste. Maybe she died suddenly, or humility, focusing on spirit over ego. Either way, her tomb's a masterpiece of meaning, not marble. What about her life? We can only guess. If she was Zakbu Ajo, she lived through Palenque's rise, bearing sons who'd rule, advising Pakal as he built his legacy. If Sakkuk, she fought to save her city, passing the crown to her son. She walked Palenque's plazas, where merchants sold cacao, weavers spun cotton, and priests burned copal incense. She knew the stars, the calendar, the gods' demands. Her hands might have held bloodletting tools, piercing her tongue or ears to offer blood to the divine. Her voice might have chanted in rituals. Her eyes watched ball games where losers faced death. She was Maya, her world alive with color, sacrifice, and power. Her burial was a community's farewell. Attendants prepared her body, painting it red, dressing it in jade. Priests chanted, smoke rose, the sarcophagus closed. The chamber was sealed, the temple left to time. For centuries, vines claimed it, rains eroded stone, until that day in 1994 when she returned. Her bones, now in a museum, still speak. Her mask, reassembled, stares back. Her cinnabar lingers, a warning and a blessing. Why does she matter? The Red Queen's not just a skeleton. She's proof the Maya honored women as fiercely as men. Her tomb challenges our idea of ancient queens as mere consorts. She was a force, her legacy carved in silence, not stone. We don't know her name, but we feel her presence. She's a mystery that pulls us closer, asking us to listen, to imagine, to respect a world where a woman could be divine. So, history lovers, what do you think? Is she Zakbu Aja, Sakkuk, or someone else entirely? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm dying to hear them. Next, we're heading to 20th century Mexico, where a woman named Frida Kahlo turned pain into art that still burns bright. Stay with me. This one's going to hit you in the heart. Part 4. Frida Kahlo, painting pain into power. Hey, history lovers. We've just emerged from the jungle mists of Palenque, where the Red Queen's crimson tomb left us with more questions than answers. Now, let's leap into the vibrant, sun-soaked streets of 20th century Mexico, where a woman named Frida Kahlo turned a life of pain into art that screams with defiance and truth. This isn't a story of gentle watercolors or quiet studios. It's about a woman who faced a shattered body, a broken heart, and a world that tried to box her in, only to paint her way into immortality. So, pull up a chair. Imagine the scent of marigolds and oil paint, and let's dive into Frida's world. Trust me, this one's going to grab your heart and not let go. Picture a bright blue house in Coyoacán, Mexico City, in 1907. That's where Frida Kahlo is born, in a place called La Casa Azul, a home bursting with color and chaos. Her dad, Guillermo, is a German-Mexican photographer with a sharp mind and epilepsy that keeps him fragile. Her mom, Matilde, is devout, indigenous, and strict, running a household of 6 daughters. Frida's the third, a kid with a spark, curious, bold, and already a bit of a troublemaker. At 6, polio hits her right leg, leaving it thinner and weaker. Kids taunt her, calling her pata de palo peg leg. Does she hide? No way. She boxes, climbs, swims, masking her limp with sheer will. She wears long skirts, not to cover up, but to own her style. Her family's mix of European and indigenous pride shining through. Frida's not just growing up, she's learning to fight back against a world that's already trying to define her. Schools where she shines. At 15, she's one of the few girls accepted into the National Preparatory School, a prestigious place training Mexico's future. She's 1922, and Frida's debating politics, flirting with radicals, and soaking up the intellectual fire of post-revolutionary Mexico. She wants to be a doctor, a career that's almost unthinkable for women then. She's outspoken, joining a group called the Cachuchas, a gang of brainy rebels who question everything. Her mind's sharp, her laugh's infectious, and she's already painting her world with ideas, even if she hasn't picked up a brush yet. But life's about to throw a wrecking ball. In September 1929, at 18, everything changes. Frida's on a bus, heading home from school. When it collides with a tram, the crash is horrific metal twists. Bodies break. A steel handrail impales her through the pelvis. Her spine fractures in 3 places. Her ribs crack. Her leg shatters. Doctors don't expect her to live. She's in a full-body cast for months, trapped in bed, pain like a constant scream. Her dream of becoming a doctor dies in that wreckage, but something else is born. Her mom hangs a mirror above her bed. Her dad gives her paints and brushes, staring at herself. Frida starts painting self-portraits that aren't just images, but confessions. Her brush doesn't flinch, it digs into her wounds, her grief, her defiance. She says, "I paint myself because I'm alone so often and because I am the subject I know best." This isn't art for galleries, it's survival. Let's talk about that pain, because it's the crucible of her work. Frida endures over 30 surgeries in her life, each one trying to piece her body back together. She wears steel corsets to hold her spine together, battles infections, and lives with nerves that never stop firing. Bedridden for months at a time, she paints lying down, a canvas rigged above her. Her self-portraits aren't pretty. They're raw, in the broken column. From 1944, she shows herself split open, her spine a crumbling pillar, nails piercing her skin, tears on her face, but her gaze unyielding. Henry Ford Hospital. From 1932, paints her miscarriage a tiny fetus, a blood-soaked bed, her body small against a barren city. It's gut-wrenching, a grief most women couldn't dare show. Frida doesn't just paint pain, she makes it speak. At 21, in 1928, Frida meets the giant of Mexican art, Diego Rivera. He's 20 years older, a muralist painting revolution on Mexico's walls, a bear of a man with a charm as big as his ego. He sees her work and is floored. Frida's talent is undeniable. They fall in love, a storm of passion that sweeps them into marriage in 1929. But it's no fairy tale. Diego's a serial cheater, his affairs cutting deep, especially when he sleeps with Frida's younger sister, Christina. Frida fights back, taking lovers to men like Leon Trotsky, women like Chavela Vargas living her bisexuality openly in a world that demanded silence. They divorce in 1939, only to remarry a year later, forging a partnership that's messy, creative, and unbreakable. Diego paints murals for nations. Frida paints her soul. Together, they're Mexico's beating heart. Frida's art is Mexico itself, indigenous, rebellious, alive. She wears Tehuana dresses, braided with flowers, not as fashion, but as a flag of her roots. Her paintings weave Mexican folk art, Catholic retablos, and surrealism into something new. Monkeys, parrots, and skulls dance in her work, symbols of life and death. She's political too, a communist who paints Marxism will give health to the sick, dreaming of justice while her body fails. Her style's unmistakable, that unibrow, those piercing eyes, a gaze that dares you to look away. She's not painting for approval. She's painting truth. Her health keeps crumbling. By the 1940s, she's in and out of hospitals. Her leg amputated in 1953, but she never stops. For her first solo show in Mexico that year, too sick to walk, she arrives by ambulance, carried in on a bed, sipping tequila and laughing with friends. It's Frida Defiant to the end. Her final paintings are fierce watermelons carved with "Viva la vida," a cry of joy despite death's shadow. In July 1954, at 47, she dies, likely from a pulmonary embolism, though some whisper overdose. Her pain finally too much. Her last diary entry reads, "I hope the exit is joyful, and I hope never to return." Frida's legacy is wildfire. Her Casa Azul, now a museum, draws millions. Her face is on murals, T-shirts, stamps not for beauty, but for truth. She's a feminist icon, a queer pioneer, a disabled artist who refused pity. Her work hangs in the Louvre, her story told in films like Frida, 2002. She didn't just survive, she reshaped how we see pain, identity, Mexico itself. Every brushstroke was a rebellion, every canvas a victory. So, history lovers, what hits you about Frida? Her courage, her art, her unapologetic life? Drop it in the comments. I'm all ears. Next, we're wrapping this journey with a conclusion that ties these stories together. Stay with me. This one's going to leave you inspired. Conclusion: hey, history lovers, we've been on one heck of a journey tonight, haven't we? We've trudged through the muddy, flea-ridden streets of medieval Europe, schemed in the glittering courts of Catherine the Great's Russia, uncovered the crimson mystery of the Red Queen in Palenque's jungles, and felt the raw, defiant pulse of Frida Kahlo's art in Mexico. Each story's been a window into lives that fought, loved, and left marks on the world in ways that still echo in our bones. Now, as we sit around this digital campfire, let's pull these threads together and reflect on what they mean for them, for us, for the stories we're still writing. So, keep that cozy drink close, and let's wrap this up with a spark that'll keep you thinking long after we're done. What ties these four worlds together? It's not just history, it's resilience. The kind that stares down impossible odds and says, "Not today." Think about those medieval peasants, waking up to fleas, filth, and a life that tried to grind them into dust. They didn't just survive, they sang, they laughed. They found joy in a world that offered none. That's not just endurance. That's a quiet, stubborn rebellion against despair. Then there's Catherine, a teenage girl dropped into a foreign court, surrounded by enemies, married to a man who'd rather play with toys than rule. She didn't bow. She plotted. She charmed. She seized an empire and reshaped it with her own hands. The Red Queen. Her name lost, but her power undeniable. lies in a tomb that screams reverence, proof that Maya women could command the divine, and Frida Kahlo, her body broken, her heart betrayed, turned pain into art that still burns with truth, daring us to look at her and see ourselves. These stories aren't just about the past, they're about us. Every one of them faced a world that tried to limit them, whether it was disease, politics, or prejudice. Medieval women birthed children in a world without medicine, knowing half wouldn't survive. Yet they kept going. Catherine ruled as a woman in a man's game, turning gossip into power. The Red Queen, whoever she was, held a place in a society where women could be queens, priestesses, warriors. Frida painted her disability, her queerness, her Mexican soul, refusing to be anyone but herself. They didn't wait for permission, they carved their own paths, leaving us a legacy of courage that's as real today as it was then. What's the lesson here? It's that history isn't just dates or battles. It's people, raw and human, fighting for meaning in a world that doesn't make it easy. Their struggles, hunger, betrayal, mystery, pain are ours too, just dressed in different clothes. When you're facing your own battles, think of the peasant mother humming to her child despite the cold, or Catherine staring down a coup with a steady hand, or the Red Queen's silent power, or Frida painting through tears. They didn't give up, and neither should you. Their stories remind us that resilience isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, scars and all, and saying, "I'm still here." So, what do you take from this? Maybe it's the grit of medieval life, the ambition of an empress, the mystery of a Maya queen, or the fire of an artist who refused to fade. Drop a comment and tell me what story hit you hardest. Where are you watching from? And what time is it there? I'm writing this at 11:15 p.m. in a time zone, 7 hours ahead of GMT. And I'm curious about you. Maybe you're in London with a midnight tea, or in California with a morning coffee. Let's keep this global campfire burning. Hit that like button if these stories moved you. Subscribe if you're hungry for more, and share this with someone who needs a spark of history's fire. The past isn't gone. It's alive in us, urging us to be bold, to create, to endure. Until next time, stay curious, stay fierce, and keep chasing the stories that make us human. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.